With 25 points in qualification, a full 5 clear of second-place Denmark, 28 goals scored, 14 against, and only 1 loss from their 10 games, Poland have stormed into the World Cup after missing out on the last 2 editions, much to their bitter disappointment. They will be one of 4 Eastern European participants, along with host nation Russia, Croatia, and Serbia, and one of the only 2 Eastern European nations to be seeded for the World Cup draw that took place a few months ago. And much maligned for having been accused of gaming the system by scheduling friendlies a certain way so that it would improve their standings in the FIFA rankings, many felt coming into this tournament that getting Poland as the seeded team was the most ideal after host nation Russia themselves. And while you can argue whether or not they are a top 8 national team in the world, and whether getting them is preferable to a France or a Germany or a Brazil, it's still a team with a lot of firepower going forward and a side that nobody should want to contend against. Their qualifying group, even though it wasn't the most eye-popping on paper, did produce a few upset results here and there, and it did show its merit as being tougher than one would have initially propositioned it as. Denmark, Montenegro, Romania, Armenia, and Kazakhstan, all teams who famously picked points off of each other, with each team outside of the top 2 losing games at least 3 or 4 times in the group. And with this Poland team, what we saw is on one day they would rack up a huge 3-0 victory on the road against Romania, crucial narrow victories on the road in Montenegro, but also dropping points elsewhere against Kazakhstan in 2-2 draws and having to rely on a stoppage time winner from Lewandowski to overcome Armenia, losing to Denmark 4-0, yet defeating them at home all the same 3-2. So for Poland and the results in this group, it's sort of been all over the place, which really speaks to the erratic nature of Adam Navalka's men. And since then, they've dropped games to fellow World Cup participants Mexico and Nigeria, albeit in the latter they did outplay the Super Eagles in that match. They probably should have won. Fast forward, playing against South Korea, absolutely dominated them for large stretches of the game, but they allowed South Korea to come back into the match, scoring 2 late goals. So there's a little bit of a tenuous kind of streak to this Poland team, because when they're really on their stride, they're lethal. But when they are going through a funk during certain spells of the match, they really leave themselves vulnerable for the other teams to come back into the match or to grab the fixture from under their feet outright. And these friendly results really sort of call into question Poland's merit, whether or not they will be the force that they have threatened to be in this tournament, given that they are one of the 8 seeded teams. There's a little bit of vulnerability here, I feel. They are in a very navigable group, but many do peg Group H as one of the groups of death. It certainly is the most well-rounded, with Colombia, Japan, and Senegal. And if Poland is not on their A game right from kickoff against Senegal, you could see a potential for an upset take place in that match. And if you're going to pick any seeded team that has the highest chances of perhaps not coming through the group, Poland are certainly in the conversation. Now, that's not to knock Poland down or to be overly negative about their World Cup prospects. It's just that their chemistry as a team has really been fluctuating all over the place. You know, the same Armenia team that I mentioned that they had to, get a stoppage time goal at home to defeat 2-1, they thrashed them 6-1 on the road. Same Montenegrin side they struggled with. They, at home, 4-2, and Lewandowski had to come up clutch in the end and score a couple of late goals. They beat them comfortably on the road. So you see how Poland have become somewhat of an unpredictable variety in this World Cup, because they truly can. As I told somebody on Twitter, they can finish anywhere between the first round and potentially a semifinal run, depending on who they face in the latter rounds. And even though I'm about to give a Captain Obvious statement here saying that Lewandowski will very much be the key player for Poland this summer, I'm actually more interested in seeing how Piotr Zielinski and Krychowiak line up in midfield and the supply line that they'll provide Lewandowski up front, because Lewandowski very much is their main goal-scoring tank. But I want to see how Poland's midfield adapts to, or really acclimatizes to, the opposition. Arkadiusz Milik, he's another one to look out for. Grosicki. I think, yes, even an aged Kuba, Jakub Blaszczykowski, he has an important role to play. I don't expect him to be on his best form. We're not going to see Euro 2012 Jakub Blaszczykowski, but I still think he's going to play a very relevant part of this team. So for Poland, I think, in addition to Lewandowski, it all depends on how the rest of the players on this squad step up and present themselves as viable goal-scoring alternatives, especially if other defenses on the opposition figure them out early on and Lewandowski finds himself in a situation where he is being neutralized. Because if you cut off the outlet to Lewandowski, you stifle a large part of Poland's creativity going forward. That's why I think the midfield is absolutely essential for Poland's chances, not just to advance, but to make a deep run into this tournament. And if I had to pick the most important player outside of Lewandowski, again, I'm going to say Zielinski. Either Zielinski or Krychowiak. Lewandowski, he had an okay Euro 2016, but he didn't really come in clutch as many had pegged him to do so prior to the tournament. I do think he has to have a better World Cup than he did at Euro 2016, although much credit to Poland, they went out on penalties in the quarterfinals. But, me being a Bayern fan, I'm not very happy with what Lua has done with us this club season, especially in the Champions League. I thought he was, for the most part, silent at times. So for his national team this summer, he's going to have to make a splash, in my opinion. I don't really expect Poland to go far this summer, but on paper, they should outclass Japan, and they should just about get by Senegal. So yeah, that's all I have to say about Poland.